happy holidays. I'm so happy to be here with you all today in my new season of the I Love Learning podcast. This season, as you might already know, is about the power of small, where little things make a big difference. And I'm Dr. Gina Anderson. I'm a learning scientist. I'm the CEO of Luma Brighter Learning. And I believe that the small actions can spark extraordinary change. So, as we close out this new year, I wanted my last guest of this year to be someone very special. Because if you're someone that believes growth doesn't have to be overwhelming and it starts just with one simple step, then you're going to want to meet my guest, Jillian. She's going to come on today. And what's really powerful about what she does in emotional intelligence is she's going to talk about how tiny shifts in our mindset and our daily habits can lead to massive transformation in your work, in your relationships, and in your life. And I know as a learning scientist, these mental shifts are part of why I created Luma Brighter Learning and its connected learning platform. And I know through all 5 interaction modes, especially learner to self, where we control how we think and our own mindsets, can really change our life. So I hope you follow us this year on YouTube, on Spotify, and on Apple iTunes so you never ever miss an episode in 2026. Because if something inspires you today, I want you to drop a comment and continue to follow us because I want to hear how small things in your life are making such a big impact. So let's bring on Jillian today. I'm so excited to
Hi.
have her. Hello, Jillian. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell everyone what you're passionate about? Now, I met Jillian this year, like not too long ago at a trucking
Yeah.
conference.
Yeah. Oh, Gina, thank you so much. I love and I'm so honored to be on your podcast here today. I'm Jillian McLaughlin, and I have a leadership and development company named McLaughlin Mentoring that I started 10 years ago after
Wow.
close to 20 years in consumer packaged
Wow.
goods and in the food and consumer industry. And I love, my passion is to help people live with their highest level of well-being and to move
Oh.
sometimes from that feeling of just feeling like you're surviving every day to really thriving.
Mm.
And I've worked with business leaders from mid-levels to executives and everyone in between. And what I find is it's not strategy that makes a leader be their best. It's
Mm.
people and how they
Mm.
use their emotional intelligence every day. Humans, we can get overwhelmed, we can get burnt out, we can feel disconnected in this world,
Yeah.
especially now
Mm.
with the
Mm.
rapid growth of AI. So, our work focuses on elevating the leadership capacity and elevating well being through learning the language
Mm.
and using emotional intelligence.
I love that. It's such an powerful message throughout the year, but especially this last episode of the year because we're ending out 2025. And it's interesting, so many people said to me, like, this year went so fast. And last year, I really made at the end of the year, I said to myself, I'm going to make sure that every day counts and I'm going to be
Mm,
hyper attuned to that. So at the end of the year, I don't look back and say, wow, this year went so fast. But again, here we are at the end of 2025, and we really need to focus on this idea of emotional intelligence because it really is going to set us up for success for the next year. And so I wanted to ask you, Jillian, this season is all about the power of small. And I know that these little moments can make such a big difference in
mm,
our lives. So, can you talk about maybe a small but mighty moment in your journey that changed
mm.
everything for you?
I love this question. I started my business 10 years ago when we moved from Toronto to
Wow.
Kansas City, actually, from behalf of
Wow.
my husband's career.
Mm.
And I started my leadership development company. And that first year, I was feeling alone. I was feeling disconnected. I didn't know
Mhm.
anybody actually when we first moved there. And at the end of that season, we'd moved in August, I was looking online for inspirational things for me to do because the idea of New Year's resolutions just wasn't working for me anymore. And I
Mm.
came upon this incredible idea of choosing a word of the year. And
Oh.
I used this practice to choose a word that represents a mantra for what you want that next year to be, your guidance for what you want that next year to
I
be, a
love
little bit of
that.
also some guardrails, right?
Mhm,
And
mhm,
so I did this exercise and I started
mhm,
by looking back at what I had come upon, this new move, and what then my
mhm,
starting this organization would look like. And
mhm,
I chose the word of the year for me for my following year. And
mm.
that year, my word was fearless, because there was so many.
Wow.
I
I
had to
love
be
that.
fearless, and
Yes.
so I start by reflecting upon the previous year and what the all the positives were, and some things I wanted that were not as positive that I wanted to
Mm,
build upon or grow. And the word has to have a positivity about it, and feel
mm.
this sense of momentum. So Gina, I've been doing this now 9 years in a row,
Wow. Okay, let's
and
do it.
let's do it. So I actually just emailed you a link
Okay.
to the exercise, and it's called Choose Your Word of the Year. And
Okay.
sometimes when you think a little bit about, so if you have an opportunity to share
Mm.
with the audience or after,
Yes.
I did get that link. Um, your word should apply to your whole life, and it should
Mm,
help anchor your goals. And at that place for me, I needed to be fearless and step out of my
mm,
uncomfortability. And that was the word for me. And then you go about then choosing why that word resonates with you and what
mm,
you're going to do to live that word. So
mm,
sometimes words spark right away, and you have one that
mhm,
pops into your mind. That was that 9 years ago for me. Last year, my word was expansion as I was growing my company and
wow.
adding
Uh-huh.
coaches in to coach emotional intelligence and adding
Mhm.
trainers in to grow my business. This year, it's taken me a little bit longer to get that word. So I'm so curious. Does a word come up for you at all, Gina?
Oh my gosh. Well, it's so funny that you have this practice, and I love that you're sharing this with the audience, and they can do it now or they can do it later. But last year, my word was thrive, and I wrote my book, and it was all
Yeah.
about the year of thriving. And I love that so much. And this year, as I've been closing out the year, I've been writing a lot about this idea of the power of small. It's actually my podcast theme this year. It's the gift I sent out to all of our clients. How small can make such a big difference. And so, micro moments is the word of the year for me because
Mm,
I am really focused on making an impact in these small intentional moments that we
mm,
have with each other and ourselves, because it's powerful, because it's exactly what you do. And I believe in what you do. And the fact is, like, we have to be aware of where our minds are at every moment, because we're distracted, right? All the time. Like, there's so much negativity. We're closing out the year and there's like doom and gloom. And so these micro moments are imperative to make us feel better. And so that is my word, and I'm sticking to
yay!
it. What's
Oh,
your word? Are you going
I
to keep
love
it?
micro. Well, I'll unveil it here. I just wrote it
Okay.
this week. My word
Okay.
of the year next year is going to be traction.
Oh, I
I've
love that. That's a
I've
good
spent a
one.
lot of time this year building my company, adding the processes to be able to scale and ready to
Mhm.
grow. And now I want to create that traction versus how do I
Yeah.
grow is, how and what's working, and let's leverage that, and let's
Mm,
gain some traction in our relationships with others, applying what I know, and just sort of living just a
mm.
life a little bit of, allowing all of the parts to work.
I
And
love
and I
that
think
word.
that'll be
That's
important, grounded and aligned and supported by what I've built already. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm so excited for you. I love the word traction. I think I'm going to think of manifest that too. It's such a good one and powerful one. I wonder
Yeah.
though, like, this is 9 years, 10 years now. What is inspiring you to keep moving forward? Because when
Mm,
progress seems slow, and I know this, like, it seems slow, or
mhm,
there's hurdles, or gosh, and in the industry that we're in, there's so much uncertainty. How do you keep moving
mm,
forward?
mm. So, and I love that that plays off attraction a little bit as
Mm,
well. And
mhm,
my connection is my currency. And I spend
mm,
every day coaching leaders being their best, enhancing their well-being by
mm,
sharing these skills of emotional intelligence. And when I see how others can
Mm,
grow and thrive by using little strategies, by sometimes just doing small things. That's
mhm,
what keeps me going. The power of how others
mm.
are being able to thrive, to grow, watching others' growth really keeps me going. Maybe even with my children, watching my children thrive and grow. I have a first year in college, university this year,
Oh,
and she's home for the holidays, and just watching her thrive reminds me that when we just pause and we can help each other, and when we help each other and others can grow, just taking that moment to celebrate them, because that's what, and measuring. I do a lot of remeasuring to BQ and asking others how they, how they've been able
mm.
to use their skills, and I see that power of growth. That's what keeps me going.
I love that. Connection is everything, you know? We're in a time where we're so disconnected, and I love that that
Hmm.
keeps you moving forward because it's so important. Last week on my show, I had Don Carver, and I don't know if you watched, but he was really excited to ask you this question. He wanted to ask you, what is one small change you can make or do to help us grow more and have a greater impact on our professional relationships and make them better? That was such a
Mm.
good question.
It's almost like he forecasted my topic of
I
human connection
know.
is what I believe EQ is all about. Well, a small change to really enhance the relationships. Honestly, it's one word: get curious. Get
Mm,
curious and ask people. So many
mm,
times we notice others
mhm,
maybe not in a good place and we shy
mhm,
away because it's
mhm,
hard or it's embarrassing, or maybe you're just not comfortable. But if we step
mhm,
forward and we get curious, I heard this
mhm.
quote a long time ago: get curious before you get furious. And
Oh,
pause and ask, because what makes us uniquely human and
mhm,
irreplaceable in the world of AI and all the growth is our connected experiences with each
mm,
other. And when we
mm,
feel connected,
mhm.
it helps our own oxytocin and serotonin levels boost. So overall, we'll be thriving. So my one small thing is just, even when you don't want to, get curious. Ask
I
a
like
curious
that.
question.
Yeah, I like that. I get nervous, like, when I'm in a room, like, the room I saw you in is full of so many people, and it's
Hmm.
like, I don't know what to say. People think, "Well, Gina, you're it's easy for you. You own a business." It's like, it's not easy, you know? You gotta, like,
No.
walk up and but that's a good strategy, like, be curious about the
Yeah,
person and truly be curious, like, really try to get to
truly.
know exactly. It's so
Because
important.
when
Mhm,
you share a little bit of your own vulnerable self, that
mhm,
vulnerability matched and meets vulnerability, that's one of the cores to that connection and the
mm,
building of trust. And so when you ask a curious question and you pause to really listen to understand
mm,
versus listening to reply,
mhm.
that is truly the art of empathy, that active listening cycle. And so empathy is a core skill of emotional intelligence to really keep us humanly connected. And so the power of the curiosity and the power of the question.
That's awesome. Do you is this something that, like, you learned in school or, was there something that you
Mm.
learned during this time that impacted how you approached life and how you approached your company? I think about this a
Mm.
lot. It's like people come on my show and they're so wise and they have all this wisdom, but, like, what was it that, like, helped you get there?
Yeah. My superpower has always been connection and interpersonal
Mhm.
relationships with me. I come from Winnipeg, Manitoba. Our license plate actually says "Friendly Manitoba" on there,
Oh, I
and
love that. I have friends in Manitoba. We have clients there and they're awesome. I love them so
oh,
much.
so
Yes.
that power of
Mm,
connection has always been important to me. And the only way to feel connected with each other is to share a bit about yourself and to open up
mhm,
and get curious about other people.
mm,
And Gina, one of the things I really loved is this 2 years ago,
mhm.
my sister-in-law sent me this brand new Harvard study, that 85-year-old study on
Wow.
adult human development. And
Uh-huh.
she said, Jillian, you need to read this study. And at the heart of the 85-year-old Harvard study proved that the secret to lifespan and
Mhm,
longevity was all about meaningful connections with others. And so
yes.
Kismet moment was about practicing your social fitness. And I
Yeah.
always talk about in my practice, you have to practice
Uh-huh.
your emotional fitness. And
Uh-huh.
so when you think about that power of connection has
Mhm.
what I've always built my company on and my relationships on. And I always say connection's my currency. And when I
Mm,
feel connected with others, I feel
mhm,
most aligned. And I try to
mm.
help others learn how to get connected. So it
Yeah.
was a natural trait I was born with, but it's also been a work in progress because asking those curious questions can sometimes be hard. And I've learned that art over the years.
Yeah, I love that. Well, thank you for being so beautiful about it because it is so meaningful and it's so important. I saw the Harvard case study last year that said people know that they're not connected, but they're preferring not to be connected. So I don't know. It's kind of a paradox. We got to like help people get through. Like forcing yourself to go out and be connected is, and this doesn't mean like you have to go join a bowling group or anything like that, but just being present when you walk through a grocery store and saying good morning. I went and ran this morning and I say good morning to everyone I run by, and sometimes people look at me like, what is that woman's problem? It's like, it matters. It takes some people off guard when you say good morning.
Mhm,
On
mhm.
Christmas, I ran and I said Merry Christmas to everyone I ran, and it made you feel better. It made me feel better, and so I think these moments don't have to be big. I wanted to ask you, I started my podcast, oh my gosh, over 3 years ago now. And I started it because I had a truck driver contact me and say that they were depressed. And they told me that they felt stuck and they really didn't have a passion for learning. If someone came to you and they said they didn't really know how to move forward and they were stuck, what advice would you give them to help them move forward? Just getting out of bed that next day.
Yeah. Well, the foundation of emotional intelligence is emotional awareness. And so I
Mm,
sum this up into three N's. You have to notice first how
mm,
you're feeling, then name the emotion to then navigate it. And
mm,
the reason why this is important is because if you don't realize you can't manage what you don't recognize and what you don't
mm,
realize. And so just noticing in that moment how you're feeling and allowing yourself to put a name to that emotion is one of the most powerful things you can do. And
mm.
sometimes I say, well, what if you notice? Can you notice what sparks joy in you? Notice just that one thing that lights you up. And I have many clients where well-being it's a struggle.
Mhm,
I have a very close family member who suffers from emotional dysfunction,
mhm,
and it's very challenging. And so part of it is to be able to, if you can just do one thing that you love and
mm,
it sparks some joy, maybe it's just a hot coffee in the morning to get you out of bed, or maybe it's a walk. The other thing I always love to say is to be able to sometimes practice that emotional fitness is to notice how you're feeling. I do this practice every day for myself by going
mm,
outside in nature.
mm,
I force
mhm.
myself, rain, or so it was pouring rain here, like sleeting rain
Oh,
yesterday here in
no.
Toronto. I said, I have to go outside. And
Oh,
I asked myself, how am I feeling? Okay, what do I
mhm,
need to do to navigate this? Sometimes it's
mhm,
just sitting in the feeling and realizing that sometimes Christmas and holidays are hard and there's lots of
mhm,
emotions. And sometimes it's, you know what, I'm going to call that person and just check in. Just the
mm.
one simple idea of just noticing. So you can then navigate that emotion to do one thing that might spark joy in you. Just even a small thing is what I recommend.
That's awesome. Totally tied to neuroscience, being exercise, going outside, being in nature, being around trees, being around water. I mean, being around just the
Mhm,
breathing and that cycle of doing that is so important. I appreciate
mhm,
that so much. So next week in my first podcast of the 2026, I can't even believe it, you all. I'm going to have on my podcast Carolyn Dowdy. She's a caregiver and mental wellness expert. I really
mhm.
thought it was important because one of the topics she focuses on is workplace burnout. Oh my goodness. Now that's the last week of the year. I'm hoping that we can give a resource for people that are feeling burnt out at the end of the year. What do you think
Mhm.
we should ask Carolyn next week?
Ooh, well, I would love to know one small thing we can do to help with burnout. Just
Mm,
one small strategy that I can do every day to help proactively eliminate burnout. I read a stat
mhm,
that 50% of managers are feeling burnt out right now.
mm,
That's insane. I see it in my practice and all the coaching I do. So I would just
mhm.
really love to understand specifically burnout. And I'd also love to know what her word of the year might be for
Oh,
2026.
let's do it. I can't wait to hear
Yeah.
her year word. I love that. Thank you so much. It's so beautiful. Well, I would want you to leave us today with some lasting advice for everyone from around the world who is joining us. Thank you so much for joining us today. What do you want to leave people with as they close out 2025 and go into the new year?
Mm. Emotional intelligence is one of the highest predictors of well-being and workplace success. So dive into those skills. Start with noticing your own emotions. The number one thing you can control in life is the
Mhm,
self-talk, is what you
mhm,
say to your own self. And so notice it. Notice if it is positive or negative, and make a conscious effort to try to reframe it. And if you're having trouble reframe it, pick up the phone, not text. Pick up the phone and call a friend because
mhm.
just that connection with others will really, really help.
I love that. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. I'm so glad I met you. If anyone wants to connect and learn more about your services or learn more about how they can engage with you, where should they go and how can they find you?
Aw, thank you. Well, they can come on to LinkedIn, Jillian
Mhm,
McLaughlin, or my company's name is McLaughlin Mentoring. LinkedIn is where I spend most of my time from a social
mhm,
perspective. And my
mhm.
website is mclaughlinmentoring.com. Thank you so much. And I hope you all enjoy your word of the year exercise. Thank you for adding that, Dr. Gina. I really appreciate it.
You bet. Well, thank you,
Yeah.
Jillian. Thank you, everyone. I hope you all have a safe, a relaxing rest of the year. And remember to be kind, be well, and be kind to yourselves. And we'll see you next year. So until then, we will see you.